A lot of car myths don't stick around because they work, they stick around because they're sold, repeated, or feared. Some of this advice sounds smart because it's been marketed that way. Some sound safe because it plays on fear, and some has been passed down so long it feels true, even when the evidence says otherwise. While a few of these myths just waste money or comfort, others quietly damage cars, and one of them is dangerous enough to put lives at risk every year. Before belief, marketing, or outdated thinking costs you repairs or safety, let's break down the car myths people keep falling for, not just what's wrong with them, but why they're so easy to believe. Myth 1. Using a cell phone while refueling can cause an explosion. A surprisingly large number of drivers believe that using a cell phone at a gas station can cause an explosion. Surveys consistently show that roughly 40% of drivers still believe phones can ignite fuel vapors. The fear feels logical. Gasoline is flammable. Phones are electronic, and warning signs reinforce the idea that something dangerous is happening. But this belief didn't come from real-world incidents. It came from perception. No cell phone signs at gas stations were never introduced because of explosion risk. Industry groups have clarified that those signs exist primarily to reduce driver distraction during refueling, not because phones create sparks. Over time, the warning outlived its explanation, and the message turned into a myth. Extensive testing has already settled this question. Controlled experiments, including multiple tests conducted by Mythbusters, failed to produce a single ignition caused by a cell phone. The Federal Trade Commission, the Petroleum Equipment Institute, and the National Fire Protection Association have all publicly stated that cell phones do not generate sparks capable of igniting fuel vapors during normal use. If fuel vapors were that sensitive, everyday vehicle electronics would trigger fires constantly. Engines, radios, alternators, and electrical systems produce far more energy than a phone, yet gas station fires from those sources are extremely rare. The evidence points elsewhere. According to fire safety investigations and industry data, the most common cause of gas station fires is static electricity. When a driver re-enters the vehicle during refueling, static charge can build up. Touching the fuel nozzle afterward can discharge that static as a spark, and that spark can ignite vapors. This has been documented repeatedly and captured on video. This myth survives because fear spreads faster than data. A visible object like a phone is easier to blame than an invisible risk like static charge. When warnings are repeated without explanation, belief replaces evidence. Understanding the difference between perceived danger and documented risk is what turns fuel station superstition into real safety. Myth 2. Premium gas improves fuel economy or is better for all cars. One of the most common car maintenance myths still fooling drivers is the idea that premium fuel is better for every car. In fact, estimates show that over 16 million drivers waste an extra 20 to 40 cents per gallon buying premium fuel their cars don't actually need. The belief feels responsible. Higher price, higher quality, and fuel branding does a great job reinforcing that assumption. What makes this myth especially revealing is that it isn't even pushed by gas stations themselves. While premium labels suggest better performance, the industry understands exactly what premium fuel is for. Its only real difference is a higher octane rating, not better cleanliness, energy content, or efficiency. Octane doesn't mean quality. It simply measures a fuel's ability to resist knocking under high compression. That's why premium fuel is required in turbocharged and high-performance engines, which operate at higher pressures. Outside of those designs, using premium fuel doesn't improve mileage, increase power, or clean the engine. In some cases, it can slightly reduce fuel economy, because the engine's timing and combustion are calibrated for regular gasoline. Automakers make this clear in owner's manuals and warranty documentation. If premium fuel is required, it's explicitly stated. If it's not, regular fuel works exactly as intended. Claims that premium fuel cleans engines better are also misleading. By law, all gasoline sold contains detergent additives to prevent carbon buildup. Premium fuel does not have special cleaning properties. This myth survives because price and language shape perception. Paying more feels like preventative care, even when the evidence says otherwise. When branding replaces understanding, drivers end up spending more money for the same result, not because premium fuel is better. Myth 3. Fuel additives will clean your engine like new or boost mileage and performance. Fuel additives are some of the most polarizing products in car maintenance. Ask around and you'll hear two extremes. Either they're miracle cures that restore lost power and mileage, or they're complete snake oil. That split exists for one reason. These products are sold on promise, not measurable expectation. Most fuel additives claim to clean carbon buildup, restore performance, and boost fuel economy. The language is confident, dramatic, and intentionally vague. If a bottle promises cleaner injectors, better mileage, and smoother acceleration all at once, it sounds like easy maintenance. In reality, fuel additives are designed for very specific functions, not total engine restoration. Some brands, including manufacturer-recognized products like Techron Concentrate, have been shown to clean parts of the fuel system, particularly injectors and fuel lines. Products like Gumout can also help reduce deposits, but none of them clean an engine like new, and none can restore worn components or reverse mechanical damage. Claims of major mileage or performance gains don't hold up under real-world testing. In most healthy engines, any improvement is minimal and often impossible to measure. Octane boosters are among the biggest offenders, promising extra power despite repeated tests showing little to no real gain. If additives truly delivered dramatic results, fuel companies would already include them at the pump because it would give them an undeniable competitive advantage. They don't because the benefits are limited. What often gets ignored is that top-tier gasoline already contains higher quality detergent packages backed by major automakers. It costs only a few cents more per gallon and provides consistent, gradual cleaning during normal driving. For routine maintenance, that does more than most bottled additives ever will. This myth survives because it offers an easy fix for complex problems. A bottle feels cheaper than maintenance and easier than diagnosis. But when marketing promises replace realistic expectations, drivers end up paying for improvements they'll never actually notice. Additives can help in specific situations, but they don't rebuild engines. Myth 4. Auto parts stores provide free check engine light diagnosis. Many drivers believe auto parts stores offer free check engine light diagnosis. The idea feels reassuring, especially when surveys show that about 78% of people say they distrust mechanics. When something is labeled free, it sounds like a safer alternative. But this belief is built on a misunderstanding of what's actually being offered. Auto parts stores don't provide full diagnostics. What they offer is a basic OBD2 code scan. That scan can identify what system reported a problem, but it doesn't explain why the problem happened. A trouble code might point to a misfire or an oxygen sensor, but it can't tell whether the cause is a worn spark plug, a failing coil, a vacuum leak, wiring damage, or even incorrect fuel. Without identifying the root cause, replacing parts becomes guesswork, and guesswork gets expensive. The reason this service exists isn't deception. It's business. Free scans are designed to bring customers into the store and guide them toward purchasing parts. Store employees aren't trained or authorized to perform in-depth diagnostics, and for liability reasons, they won't confirm an exact repair. This myth persists because free diagnosis sounds like expert help, especially to drivers trying to avoid being overcharged. In reality, a code reader is only a starting point. Real diagnosis requires testing, experience, and interpretation, things a simple scan can't provide. Myth 5. Dealerships are more reliable or honest than independent shops. Many drivers assume dealerships are automatically more reliable and honest than independent repair shops. The belief feels natural. Dealerships sell the car, wear the brand logo, and project authority, which makes them feel like the safest place to go when something goes wrong. But that trust is largely psychological, not technical. Modern independent shops often use the same diagnostic software, VANG-specific scanners, service databases, and repair procedures as dealerships. Many independent mechanics are dealership-trained technicians who left the dealer environment, but not them. Knowledge behind. What does change is the business model. Dealership service departments operate on quotas and manufacturer-driven service schedules. Labor rates are often higher, parts are marked up aggressively, and recommended services may be pushed whether they're needed or not. That doesn't make dealerships dishonest. It makes them structured around sales targets rather than flexibility. Independent shops, by contrast, have more freedom in how repairs are approached. They can source OEM parts or high-quality aftermarket alternatives, often at lower cost. In many cases, that leads to clearer explanations and fewer upsells, not because independents are better people, but because their incentives are different. This myth survives because brand authority feels like protection. When something is expensive or complex, people gravitate toward familiar names. But modern vehicle repair isn't controlled by logos, it's controlled by tools, training, and accountability. Confusing brand ownership with repair quality causes drivers to overpay, not because better service was required, but because trust was placed in the wrong signal. Myth 6. Red cars get more speeding tickets. The belief that red cars get more speeding tickets is one of the longest-lasting driving myths, and at first glance, the numbers seem to support it. Data cited by the National Motorists Association shows that white cars are pulled over most often, followed by red. But this is where perception takes over. About 35% of all cars on the road are white, while only around 5% are red. When you adjust for how many of each color actually exist, red cars appear overrepresented in traffic stops, which makes the myth feel validated. A closer look at the data tells a different story. The vehicles with the highest number of speeding tickets aren't defined by color, they're defined by performance. Models like the Subaru BRZ, Hyundai Genesis Coupe, and Volkswagen GTI top ticket lists. Many of these cars are commonly sold in bright colors, including red, because they're styled to look fast and noticeable. Speed enforcement doesn't care about color. Radar guns and speed cameras measure motion, not paint. The deciding factor is driver behavior, how fast the car is driven and how noticeable it is while doing it. When a vehicle is both quick and visually distinct, it draws more attention, not because it's red, but because it stands out. This myth survives because humans look for simple patterns. Color is easy to blame. Behavior is harder to admit. When statistics are viewed without context, correlation gets mistaken for cause. Red cars don't earn tickets. Speeding does. Myth 7. Big SUVs or old steel tank cars are safer than modern cars. Many drivers believe bigger vehicles, especially old, heavy steel-bodied cars, are safer simply because they look tougher. The logic feels natural. More metal should mean more protection. But this belief is built on appearance, not evidence. Older cars were rigid by design. In a crash, that rigidity didn't absorb impact. It transferred it directly to the occupants. There were no crumple zones, no controlled deformation, and little protection for the human body inside. Modern vehicles are engineered with the opposite goal. They're designed to bend, collapse, and sacrifice themselves in specific areas to protect the passenger compartment. Crumple zones absorb energy, airbags slow body movement, and reinforced safety cages preserve survival space. What looks flimsy is actually intentional energy management. Crash tests make this clear. In a well-known head-on collision test between a 1959 Chevy Bel Air and a 2009 Chevy Malibu, the older car suffered catastrophic cabin collapse, while the modern car maintained its occupant space. The heavier steel didn't save the driver, the engineering did. This myth survives because humans trust what looks strong. Size feels safe. Weight feels protective. But safety isn't about resisting impact, it's about controlling it. Modern crash protection is designed around physics, not nostalgia. The tank look may feel reassuring, but it doesn't reduce injury. It only hides how force is really transferred in a crash. Myth 8. Electric cars pollute the environment more than gas cars. A common claim against electric vehicles is that they pollute more than gas-powered cars. The argument usually focuses on battery production, lithium mining, and recycling concerns. On the surface, it sounds convincing. Batteries are large, complex, and energy-intensive to make, which makes them an easy target in environmental debates. What this framing leaves out is context. Manufacturing an electric vehicle does produce more emissions upfront, largely because of the battery. But building a gas-powered car also generates emissions. Engines, transmissions, exhaust systems, fuel tanks, and gearboxes all require raw materials and energy. The difference isn't whether emissions exist, it's how long they continue. Multiple life cycle analyses show that an electric vehicle typically offsets its higher manufacturing emissions within about 18 months of average driving. After that point, it produces zero tailpipe emissions, while gas-powered vehicles continue burning fuel and releasing carbon dioxide for their entire lifespan. Focusing only on the production phase creates a misleading picture. Lithium mining is often cited as proof that EVs are worse for the environment, but that claim is frequently overstated. Most lithium is extracted from salt brines using evaporation processes similar to salt production. Lithium is also abundant in the Earth's crust, and its extraction is far less destructive than drilling, transporting, and refining fossil fuels year after year. Recycling concerns follow the same pattern. Battery recycling is already in progress, with valuable materials like copper, aluminum, and cobalt being recovered and reused. EVs themselves are built from the same recyclable materials as gas cars. This myth survives because partial information feels complete. When only the most visible environmental cost is discussed, the full life cycle is ignored. Fear grows faster than data. When emissions are measured over time instead of moments, electric vehicles don't pollute more. They shift pollution away from the road and reduce it overall. Myth 9. Women are worse drivers than men. The idea that women are worse drivers than men is one of the most repeated driving stereotypes, yet it rarely survives a full look at the data. When safety is measured, the numbers tell a different story. Women are statistically safer drivers overall, which is why they typically pay lower insurance rates. Men are more likely to speed, take risks, and be involved in serious or fatal crashes. Where the conversation becomes more selective is when people shift the definition of better driving. Some studies show men performing better on certain controlled tasks, such as parking speed. At the same time, women are more likely to be involved in minor accidents, often linked to distraction rather than aggressive driving. This is where perception overrides context. Severe crashes and fatalities carry far greater consequences than minor incidents. Yet the stereotype focuses on visibility rather than impact. Risk-taking behavior tends to produce fewer mistakes until it produces much bigger ones. A useful way to understand this difference is through risk tolerance. One driver takes aggressive chances, gaining confidence and occasional advantages, but pays a heavy price when something goes wrong. The other drives more cautiously, avoids catastrophic outcomes, and accepts smaller trade-offs. Neither pattern fits neatly into a good or bad label, but only one aligns with overall safety outcomes. This myth survives because stereotypes are easier to repeat than statistics. When driving ability is judged by anecdotes instead of outcomes, perception replaces evidence. Most car myths don't survive because they're accurate. They survive because they're repeated, marketed, or wrapped in fear, status, or tradition. When advice sounds familiar enough, confident enough, or common sense, it stops getting questioned, even when the evidence says otherwise. Cars haven't become more confusing. The stories around them have. And when belief replaces verification, drivers end up wasting money, making poor decisions, or misjudging real risks. The goal isn't to argue opinions, it's to recognize when a claim is driven by perception instead of proof. Because once you understand why a myth sticks, it becomes much harder to fall for the next one. In the next section, we'll look at a different kind of myth, not the ones shaped by fear or marketing, but the ones people were actively taught to believe and how to finally do them the right way.